She lived deep in the forest in a tiny cottage and sold herbal remedies for a living. Folks living in the town nearby called her Bloody Mary and said she was a witch. None dared cross the old crone for fear that their cows would go dry, their food stores rot away before winter, their children take sick of fever, or any number of terrible things that an angry witch could do to her neighbors. Then the little girls in the village began to disappear, one by one. No one could find out where they had gone. Grief-stricken families searched the woods, the local buildings, and all the houses and barns, but there was no sign of the missing girls. A few brave souls even went to Bloody Mary's home in the woods to see if the witch had taken the girls, but she denied any knowledge of their disappearances. Still, it was noted that her haggard appearance had changed. She looked younger, more attractive. The neighbors were suspicious, but they could find no proof that the witch had taken their young ones. Then came the night where the daughter of the miller rose from her bunk bed and walked outside, following an enchanted sound no one else could hear. The miller's wife had a toothache and was sitting up in the kitchen treating the tooth with an herbal remedy when her daughter left the house. She screamed for her husband and followed the girl out the door. The miller came running in his nightshirt. Together they tried to restrain the girl, but she kept breaking away from them and headed out of town. The desperate cries of the miller and his wife woke the neighbors. They came to assist the frantic couple. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed farmer gave a shout and pointed towards a strange light at the edge of the woods. A few townsmen followed him out into the field and saw Bloody Mary standing beside a large oak tree, holding a magic wand that was pointed towards the miller's house. She was glowing with an unearthly light as she set her evil spell upon the miller's daughter. The townsmen grabbed their guns and their pitchforks and ran towards the witch. When she heard the commotion, Bloody Mary broke off her spell and fled back into the woods. The far-sighted farmer had loaded his gun with silver bullets in case the witch ever came after his daughter. Now, he took aim and shot at her. The bullet hit Bloody Mary in the hip, and she fell to the ground. The angry townsmen leapt upon her and carried her back into the field, where they built a huge bonfire and burned her at the stake. As she burned, Bloody Mary screamed a curse at the villagers. If anyone mentioned her name aloud before a mirror, she would send her spirit to revenge herself upon them for her terrible death. When she was dead, the villagers went to the house in the woods and found the unmarked graves of the little girls the evil witch had murdered. She had used their blood to make herself young again. From that day to this, any foolish enough to chant Bloody Mary's name 3 times before a darkened mirror will summon the vengeful spirit of the witch. It is said that she will tear their bodies to pieces and rip their souls from their mutilated corpses. The souls of these unfortunate ones will burn in torment as Bloody Mary once was burned, and they will be trapped forever in the mirror. It was a cold and windy night. Karen Ledger was standing on the dock, clutching her suitcase and waiting anxiously for a boat to arrive. It was dark and she glanced around nervously. She had the strangest feeling that someone was watching her. All of a sudden, she heard a rustling noise in the bushes behind her. When she whirled around, she was shocked to see a man standing there. He was dressed in ragged clothing and he was clutching an axe in his hands. Who are you?" she cried. "That don't matter," the man replied with a smile. "You look good, real good. I bet you taste good too." Karen let out a horrified scream as the man raised the axe above his head. He brought it crashing down with a loud thunk. The razor-sharp blade embedded itself in her skull, killing her instantly. The man was pleased. It was a clean kill. Quickly, he grabbed her by the legs and dragged her body into the bushes. He carried her through the trees and back to his cabin, set back in a remote part of the forest. He dumped her in the bathtub, pulled off her clothes, then went to the shed to fetch his chainsaw. It was messy work, but after a few minutes he had chopped her body into pieces. The man roasted the legs in the oven and made soup from the eyeballs and severed fingers. Then he sat at the table and gobbled down as much as he could eat, savoring the taste of the human flesh. Later that night, while he was going through her coat pockets, he found a letter. As soon as he read it, his eyes grew wide and his face went pale. Dear Mrs. Ledger, your test results came back. We regret to inform you that you have leprosy and it is contagious. We have arranged for you to be treated at a special isolation clinic. It is located on a remote island off the coast. A boat will meet you there at the dock on Friday night at 11 p.m. Please make sure you are here. I live in Tokyo and I take the subway to work every morning. My local subway station is Shin-Koiwa Station on the Chuo line. It is notorious as a place where people commit suicide. It has earned the nickname Suicide Station. Over the years, countless depressed and misguided people have taken their lives there by jumping in front of a train. It became such a problem that they installed mirrors in the subway. They say that if people catch sight of themselves about to jump, it'll make them change their minds. I have no idea if it really works. Just last week, there was a suicide at the station. I was there when it happened. I saw the whole thing. It was early in the morning and I was waiting for my train. There were only a few other people on the platform. I heard a voice over the loudspeaker announcing that the train was coming. Just then, I noticed a woman who was standing right in front of me. She was about 26 or 27 years old, just an ordinary woman. But something about her made me very nervous. She was acting very strangely. As the train came closer and closer, she stepped forward and began inching towards the edge of the platform. Something was very wrong. She glanced back at me and I could see there was a look of sheer terror on her face. Suddenly I knew what she was about to do, but I was powerless to stop her. I was frozen to the spot by fear. All I could do was watch as she threw herself in front of the train. There was a screech of brakes as the train tried to stop. The other passengers on the platform screamed. Through the echo of their screams and the metallic screech, I heard a sickening thump. The sight was so grotesque, I couldn't get it out of my mind. There was blood and chunks of flesh flying everywhere. I thought I was going to be sick. The other passengers ran away from the platform and I ran with them. The officials had to close down the whole line. As we waited outside for a bus to take us to our destination, I kept thinking about that poor woman. The scene replayed over and over in my mind, but there was something wrong. Finally, it came to me. The shadows. That's what had made me nervous. I noticed it just before the woman jumped. The lights in the subway were bright, and when they shone down, they cast shadows from left to right. The pillars, the kiosks, everything cast a shadow from left to right. But the woman's shadow had been different. Her shadow went straight forward, stretching from her feet to the edge of the platform, as if a light had been shining from behind her. There was definitely something wrong. I had an uneasy feeling in the pit of my stomach and it wouldn't go away. I had to get to the bottom of this. As soon as I got to work, I went straight to the internet and began searching for old news stories about the station. There had been almost 20 suicides in the last year alone. Some of them were businessmen, some were housewives, some were old, some were young, and there were even a few children. Then, finally, I found what I was looking for. It was a photograph that had been taken just seconds before a middle-aged man had jumped in front of a train. I zoomed in and examined it very carefully. One of his legs was in the air and he was leaning back. I recognized the same look of terror on his face. There was a black shadow, like an arm, stretching out under the platform and grabbing the man by the ankle. Suddenly it all made sense. When I saw the young woman in the subway that morning, she wasn't jumping in front of the train. She was being dragged in front of it. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.